Happy Tuesday. Obviously, during lockdown number 1, I did bedtime stories. So I am going to try my absolute hardest to do that now in lockdown 2. We started Grandpa's Great Escape yesterday, so we've got all of this to get through this afternoon. Very excited. It's going to be a short one today just because I'm obviously still here, still in the classroom. Nothing's changed really. You're all still on green. Good to be green. So yesterday we obviously looked at all of the pictures of the different food concoctions that Grandpa made. So let's start. The use of the French words gave it an air of poshness it did not deserve. Fortunately, the boy did not come for the food. World War II was the most important time in Grandpa's life. It was a time when brave Royal Air Force pilots like him fought for their country in the Battle of Britain. The Nazis were planning an invasion, a plot they called Operation Sea Lion. However, without being able to secure power over the skies to protect their troops on the ground, the Nazis were never able to put their plan into action. Day after day, night after night, RAF pilots like Grandpa risked their lives to keep the people of Britain free from the capture of Nazis. So instead of reading a book to his grandson at bedtime, the old man would tell the boy real-life adventures during the war. His stories were more thrilling than any of you could find in a book. One more tale, Grandpa, please, the boy begged, on one such night. I want to hear about when you were shot down by Luftwaffe and had to crash into the English Channel. It's late, young Jack, Grandpa replied. You go to sleep. I promise I will tell you that tale and plenty more in the morning. But I'll meet you in your dreams, Squadron Leader, said the old man as he kissed Jack tenderly on the forehead. Squadron Leader was his nickname for his grandson. I'll see you up in the skies, up and away, the boy repeated before drifting off to sleep in Grandpa's spare room, dreaming he, too, was a fighter pilot. Time spent with Grandpa couldn't have been more perfect, but that was all about to change. Over time, Grandpa's mind began transporting him back to his days of glory more and more. By the time our stories begin, the old man completely believed that it was still World War II, even though the war had ended decades before. Grandpa had become very confused, a condition that affects some elderly people. It was serious and sadly there was no known cure. Instead, it seemed to worsen over time, until one day, Grandpa might not even be able to remember his own name. But as in life, wherever there is tragedy, you can often find comedy. In recent times, the old man's condition has led to some very funny moments. On bonfire night, Grandpa insisted everyone go down to the air raid shelter at once when next door neighbours letting off fireworks in the garden. Or, there was that time when Grandpa cut a wafer-thin chocolate mint into 4 pieces with his penknife and shared it out with his family because of rationing. Most memorable of all was when Grandpa decided that a shopping trolley at the supermarket was really a Lancaster bomber. He hurtled down the aisles on a top-secret mission, hurling huge bags of flour. These bombs exploded everywhere, over the floor, over the tills, even covering the haughty supermarket manageress from head to toe. She looked like a powdery ghost. The clean-up operation lasted many weeks. Grandpa was banned from the supermarket for life. Sometimes, Grandpa's confusion could be more upsetting. Jack had never met his grandmother. This was because she had died 40 years ago. It had been one night towards the end of the war in a Nazi bombing raid over London, and at the time, Jack's father was a newborn baby. However, when Jack stayed at his grandfather's tiny flat, the old man would sometimes call for his darling Peggy as if she was in the next room. Tears would well in the little boy's eyes. It was heartbreaking. Despite everything, Grandpa was an incredibly proud man. For him, everything had to be just so. There's a nice little picture of Grandpa. Flying Ace's moustache, a crisp white shirt, a double-breasted blazer, service medals, polished gold buttons, a Royal Air Force tie, slippers, neatly pressed grey slacks. He was always impeccably dressed in a uniform of a double-breasted blazer, a crisp white shirt, neatly pressed grey slacks, a maroon, silver and blue striped Royal Air Force tie was forever knotted neatly around his neck. As was the fashion with many World War II pilots, he favoured a dashing Flying Ace's moustache, and it was a thing of wonder. The moustache was so long it connected to his sideburns. It was like a beard, but with the chin bit missing. Grandpa would twizzle the ends of his moustache for hours until they stuck out at just the right angle. The one thing that would give Grandpa confusion and state of mind away was his choice of footwear, slippers. The old man no longer wore shoes. Now he always forgot to put them on. Whatever the weather, in rain, sleet or snow, he would always be sporting his brown check slippers. Of course, Grandpa's eccentric behaviour made the grown-ups worry. Sometimes Jack would pretend to go to bed, but instead creep out of the bedroom and sit at the top of the stairs in his pyjamas. There, he would listen to his mother and father downstairs in the kitchen discussing Grandpa. They would always use big words that Jack didn't understand to describe the old man's condition, and then Mum and Dad would argue about Grandpa being put in an old folks' home. The boy hated hearing his grandfather talked about in this way, as if he was some sort of problem. However, being only 12 years old, Jack felt powerless to do anything. But none of this stopped Jack adoring hearing stories about his old man's wartime adventures. Even though these tales had become so real to Grandpa, now the pair would even act them out. They were the boy's own adventure stories of dare and do. Grandpa had an ancient wooden record player the size of a bath. On it he would play booming orchestral music with a volume as high as it would go. Military bands were his favourite, and together Jack and his grandfather would listen to the huge classical pieces like Rule Britannia, Land of Hope and Glory, or Pomp and the Circumstance marches way into the night. The two armchairs would become their cockpits, and the music soared, so did they and their imaginary fighter planes. A Spitfire for Grandpa and a Hurricane for Jack. Up and away they would go. Together, they would always fly high above the clouds, outwitting enemy aircraft, and every Sunday night the pair of flying aces would win the Battle of Britain without even leaving the tiny man's old flat. Together, Grandpa and Jack inhabited their own world and had countless imaginary adventures. However, the night our story begins, a real-life adventure was about to begin.